Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Saturday to some of you. We're glad you're all here. It is getting towards the end of April, Anno Domini 2026, and we are kind of hopping through our year here, making a lot of progress. This is, for those who are unfamiliar or not part of it, this is part of our Empowered Business Habits community, and we meet every Friday at this time to talk about this sort of stuff, about building our lives and our business and being in alignment and trying to make steady progress together, celebrating our growth together, and retaking that retaking that power of all from all the tasks and all the to-do lists and all the things we have to do and all the expectations and the weight of all that and the pressure and creating new lifestyles and new habits that serve us and serve our business. And every now and then we open up these Friday calls to our broader community. So we welcome all of the guests who have not been on here before. We're very happy that you could join us today. And at the end, we will talk about, if you want, how you can join the Empowered Business Habits community going forward, should that feel in alignment with you. So today we're talking about getting out of that kind of start stuck, very dissatisfying, disempowering, overwhelmed cycle and seeing if we can get to a place we feel a little bit more stable and able to grow with some sustainability. So we'll talk about that. And you might just start by wondering, and I think probably a lot of us have felt this way. Have you felt like you know what you should do and should put those little asterisks there because quotes didn't feel like enough? I need like giant air quotes, the giant air quote should. Do you should yourself very often? I should myself all the time. And it's not a great place to live inside. And it's something I'm learning to do less and less. So, do you should yourself? Do you know what you should be doing, but it can feel inconsistent, perhaps out of alignment or overwhelming or always sort of harder than you expect or wanted it to be? That's okay. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. That's very normal. You're going to have weeks where you're in the zone, so to speak, where you're feeling like you're in flow, and other weeks where things seem to fall apart, or you turn on that struggle switch where you feel that overwhelm and anxiety, and then all of a sudden um Zoom is doing something funny to me right now. I apologize. I'm trying to fix it. There we go. We are professionals, and Zoom sometimes does thing. Thank you, Amy, for introducing me to that. That has been my lifeline lately when things like that glitch. We are professionals. Everything's okay. And some days you're going to turn on that struggle switch where you feel anxious and overwhelmed, and then you feel anxious and overwhelmed because you feel anxious and overwhelmed, and then you feel anxious and overwhelmed because of that. And we've all felt that fun spiral. And that's okay too. And then when that happens, you start to feel like you're rebuilding. You're stuck in that cycle. You stop, start over, that fun loop when that happens. And I get this. You don't want to hustle. You don't want to work harder. That's fine. I don't want to hustle and work harder either. I spent a lot of decades hustling and working harder, and it did not serve me as much as the world told me it might. And yet, maybe you're not always sure what the alternative might be to that hustle and more stuff and more to do and working harder because there are so many coaches, so many structures out there, so many folks who are going to tell us what to do and tell us how to build things and add things on our plate and add structures into our life rather than helping us figure it out internally. So I'd love to emphasize that, look, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with us. That's why we're all here together because we feel that same struggle. You're not doing it wrong. You're not lost, even if it sometimes does feel that way. And it's okay if you do feel that way. Instead, perhaps you were never shown how to build a business that actually supports you.
or live
Maybe,
a life.
or live a life that actually supports you. Yes, honey, thank you. And for many of us entrepreneurs, boy, that difference between business and life gets very tricky, doesn't
Or
it?
semi-retired.
Semi-retired, yes. Uh-huh. In a place where we can live where we want and accept the business we don't want and all that stuff. Hmm. And so maybe you've been trying out all the structures that everyone else suggests, responding to their pressures and their ideas, instead of building some sort of gentle aligned structure that comes from within. And often we've had this over reliance on the wrong things. And so without anything better to turn to, we start relying on motivation and inspiration. Anybody been in that place where you're like, man, where did that motivation go? Where did that inspiration go? Where's my muse? Where's my muse? She's left me today. I need my muse to get things done. We rely on that willpower and white knuckling because when my muse is gone, what do? I'm just going to push through. Discipline, discipline, discipline. We call that the white knuckling. You're just holding on for dear life, getting
Or
through.
bootstrap.
And bootstrapping, yes, and bootstrapping. And telling myself, have you ever told yourself, don't worry, I'll do better next week. Next week will be better. I'll get more done next week. I'll get better things done next week. I'll accomplish more next week. That's okay. And what does that create? That's where that overwhelm comes from. That's where that anxiety comes from, that tightness in the chest, the tightness in your temples, the tightness in your throat as our chakras all collapse in on each other and tighten up and we feel disempowered. We get stuck in those start stop cycles. And that's where we get into that burnout and a lot of self doubt that comes from it. So, in other words, at least in my opinion, a lot of this anxiety, this overwhelm, this nervous system deregulation, it just feeds the cycle, right? We've been lately in our group talking about the word capacity a lot, thinking my capacity is shrinking, my capacity is going down. And how do I increase my capacity? Do I even need to increase my capacity? Maybe I have more capacity than I think if I were doing the right things in the right way, or we're doing it the way that feels aligned to me.
Well, and how much of that is criticism too? Feeling like I'm not doing enough.
Oh, well, I'm quite good at criticizing myself. There's nothing you can say to me that's nearly as critical as the things I say to myself. You guys feel that? So we have this very clear, familiar pattern. I feel inspired today. I feel motivated today. My muse is whispering to me. I'm listening to her and she's telling me what to do. So what do? I act upon it. Thank you, oh muse. Sorry. I'm in the midst of reading some Homer lately. I haven't read the Odyssey in a long while, and with the movie coming out, I'm now rereading the Odyssey. So I now have Homerian prose in my head, thinking of things like the muse.
Have you seen the epic musical, which I think is the other book that he wrote,
Mm,
or listened to it? It's not a see, it's just a listen. I'll share the link with you. You'll love it.
please do. Oh my goodness. That's what I need is one more thing to obsess over. Sorry, honey. The littles are very excited. In fact, we are rereading the Odyssey in a littles friendly version. It's I can't really do it. It's called Get Lost, Odysseus. The prose has been reworded into kid friendly language. It's a lot of fun, actually. And so, oh boy, I taken that action. Now I have these things to do. Holy cow. Now that overwhelm comes because what do I do with that action? Where do I go from there? What's the next step? Oh, now I need more motivation, more action. But because of that overwhelm, what am I looking for is a shiny object, something else to do, a way to put it off. I can't focus. I fall off of that path that seemed so clear just a couple days ago, and now I have to start over. I have to wait for my muse to show up again. We don't need to think of that pattern as failure. It feels like failure very much in the moment, and I understand that. It's really just our nervous system crying out for some structure that actually feels aligned with us. That's all it is. So if what we want is real stability, then what we need is alignment. Alignment in our values, our authenticity, and our structure. If we have values without structure, and just real quick, too, values we tend to think of as just those things that matter to us most in life and business. We don't have to make the definition any more complicated than that. Amy and I, I'm sure, could spend an hour debating the definition of values, and we would have great fun doing it. We will save that for one of the podcasts.
I think we even have.
We probably have, yes. For now, we'll stick with the values of those things that you matter most. And it's important to check in with what your values are, or at least what you think your values are, and maybe notice where are you spending your time? Where is your energy going? And you might find that your values are not what they thought they were. I remember a while back, I did a values exercise and came up with all these beautiful things around family and community and love and service. And really, it turned out my top values were distraction and avoidance because that's where my time and energy was going. And so it's good to be deliberate about that and be honest with yourself and keep reevaluating those values. The other great thing about values is you get to choose them. You get to decide what your values are. Nobody else gets to tell you what they are. That's the beautiful thing about them. I imagine all of us here today have a number of overlapping values because we were all attracted and aligned to be here today, and that's wonderful. It doesn't mean our values are the same, and that's okay. They don't have to be the same. That's the beautiful thing. But if all we have are the values without any sort of structure around them, it really just becomes intentions, wishes, hopes, without any sort of consistent follow through. And if we have that structure, but it doesn't feel authentic, doesn't feel true to who we are and what we want to be and how we want to show up in the world, that's how I tend to think of authenticity, is simply being, existing as who you are and what you are and who you want to be and what you want to be. If we have that structure and it doesn't feel authentic, Christy, I see our beautiful visitor. I love it. We love visitors around here. Then what we end up with is avoidance and distraction and resistance, right? Because we have that great structure that seems great in the moment, but if it's not feeling aligned, if it's not feeling authentic, we're going to find lots of reasons not to follow through with that either. And if we have that authenticity, we know who we are and what we are, but without some sort of values-based boundaries around us, then we end up with burnout and resentment and overwhelm. So maybe we're showing up very much who we are and what we are. We're feeling authentic, and yet we also have values that we want to protect around ourselves. And so perhaps we're doing a little too much people pleasing. We get a little too codependent. And I am not accusing any of you of being people pleasing and codependent. I'm simply describing myself. Then we start to build up resentment and that overwhelm and that anxiety. So maybe we can reframe the word structure. Does anybody's hackles go up when you hear the word structure? Anybody feel a little contracting maybe? For some of you, you like that word. For some of you, maybe you don't, and that's okay. I think perhaps we're not going to fix, now that I read this, I'm thinking fix is not the right word. I'm not a big fan of saying things are broken that need fixing. Perhaps we're not going to get where we want to be or where we think we want to be in our business by just adding more to do, adding tasks and taking more action when we don't have some sort of values-based sustainable structure as a foundation. So what is a sustainable structure? What might that look like? I submit that structure that's imposed on us based on other people's ideas and values and processes and methods, typically not going to be sustainable over time. This is why we can go invest a lot of money with the guru, go see what they have to say, take their advice, learn all the great stuff. Maybe our muse shows up at the same time and we take a lot of action and it becomes unsustainable. Because ultimately it's the guru's values, the guru's processes, the guru's methods that we're trying to impose on ourselves. It's an externally imposed structure, even if we sort of opted into it ourselves. So instead, a structure, at least a structure that doesn't give me the ickies. And some of you I saw already are okay with the word structure, and that's great. I know for me, I didn't like it. So I had to start rethinking what I meant by it. So instead, I've been thinking of structure as something built from within, not from without. Something based on your values, which again are your values and may not be my values, and that's fine and okay and beautiful. And that way it can create a consistent behavioral pattern that supports your life and your business in a way that feels gentle and aligned and simply becomes easy to follow, simply after a while develops into habits that happen automatically rather than a checklist you keep having to tick off. So if we think about a gentle structure that's sustainable, and those of you who are members in our community, you will see that we're kind of today also acts as a great wrap up for what we've done over the last couple of months, kind of summarizing these things. So you'll see some familiar things as we come to this. I submit that perhaps our values can lead into that structure. So we start with a value. We think of a behavior that perhaps goes along with that value or is aligned with it, and then consider a gentle structure that we can build around it. And from that structure, we can lead into consistency. We take that structure, we design a habit, really just a repeatable behavior that we can program into our day and lead to some feeling of consistency and alignment. This gentle framework perhaps can help us move forward consistently, authentically, in a values-based manner that feels aligned without relying on pressure or motivation or other people's ideas, external structure, and without waiting for our muse to show up. And I'm not saying disregard your muse. Your muse is beautiful and wonderful, and she can and will show up, and definitely listen to her when she does. And we have to find a way when she's not there to keep moving forward consistently in a way that feels aligned with us. So if we go to that notion of moving from values into behaviors and into structure, the value, as we said, is simply what matters. We don't need to go deeper on the definition here. It's that thing that matters. It's sort of foundational or fundamental. The behavior attached to that value would be how that value shows up in real life, in the things you say and do. And then a structure would be a gentle foundation that we build to underlie that and support it. So that structure is that foundation, that gentle foundation that we built from values, can lead into a habit. The habit is essentially just a small, repeatable action that you can build into your schedule. And we have done in EBH entire trainings around habits, and we will do more trainings around habits on how to uproot the ones that are not serving us, on how to reroute the ones that are serving us, all that good stuff. And then the consistency comes from recognizing the obstacles, the things that are going to get in the way externally and internally, and how do we protect the foundation that we built. So if we look at an example, let's say we started with the value of spaciousness and flexibility. Maybe that matters to us. Feeling open, feeling unconstrained, feeling like we can be spontaneous and move around in space and time. So when it comes to something like our business and our life in general, really, that word busy comes up a lot in life. We get busy, 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 busy. Everybody wants to be busy. We tell each other we're busy. The behavior attached to that value could be making sure that we're not overbooking and leaving more open space on your calendar. The structure then could be building in a calendar buffer and limited time slots for each type of meeting. And perhaps you do your calendar manually. Perhaps you have a team who does it for you. Perhaps you use software, as I do, and some of us do. So it could be building in that buffer in between meetings. So you have time to move around, reset your nervous system, breathe, meditate, listen to music, eat, go potty, all those things we need to do as people to reset and recharge for the next engagement. And for certain types of meeting, you might think, well, this particular type of meeting takes a lot of energy for me to show up fully and authentically for and to be of value to people. So I'm only going to do that type of meeting 3 or 4 times a week or once a day or whatever it might be.
Or if you're a writer or an artist or whatever, what
Mhm.
time of day does the muse tend to speak to you? When are you your own
Mm,
clearest channel?
mm. I love that, honey. When are you own your own clearest channel? When am I my own clearest channel?
Hmm. I think I am my clearest channel when within the first couple hours of waking up,
Mm,
and I'm more able to hear what is around me, going through me, getting my
hmm
attention. But if I schedule myself appointments right away in the morning, um, then I just get busy.
hmm
And then at least I look productive and I feel like
Mm,
I did something with my day versus going in and out of consciousness and being in the flow of
mm-hmm.
the void that is,
Yeah.
the existence of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Tapping into some book that I haven't written yet or whatever. It's
Yeah.
always interesting. How about for you?
For us in our system, it tends to be the morning as well, even as we get a little discombobulated and we're figuring out who we are today. Um, that now built-in space of doing simple things like making our bed and doing our yoga and taking a shower, that little morning routine, that tends to be where our muse shows up and it tends to set the tone for the entire day. Where we agree, like you, if we allow the meetings to be scheduled too early, then it's not that we're not up, but it's then it tends to start the day off with, for at least in us, boom, 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 meeting, meeting, meeting. And look at the end of the day, I've gotten all these things done. And yet somehow I feel like I still haven't gotten enough done. And I still feel that anxiety and constriction. Mhm.
Well, and sometimes I wonder, is that anxiety and constriction even ours?
Mm.
Or is it something we're picking up from the society at large?
Hmm. As it's projected on us, and we
And what we
then,
should be doing, we should be going
mhm,
to work and doing all these things and
yeah,
consuming and being busy and being slaves.
we pick up
There's
the
that should
projection.
again.
There's the should
Hmm.
again. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, there's
We,
that
we
should
don't want to
again.
shit on ourselves.
No, we don't. You're right.
Keep trying to
And
wash that off.
oh, it is. That shoulding is very yucky and stinky. Hmm. I've been working hard on washing off the shoulding and realizing that um, I am not spending too much time or too little time on my nervous system regulation. I'm spending as much time as it takes.
Mhm. Well, in that emotional regulation, that's something that I've been really focused on this year as well. And noticing if I'm driving and the anger comes up or the frustration that
Mm,
I'm not getting there fast enough and just keep getting back to that emotional regulation, watching the judgments and all the different thought processes that happen within a day and
yes.
just sacred. What is that? The the ability to go through your mundane tasks in a sacred manner.
Mm, I like that. Go through your
Yeah.
tasks in a sacred manner.
Yeah,
Mm,
the mundane of every day
hmm.
with love and
The
peace.
sacred, beautiful, mundane.
Yeah, joyful.
Hmm.
How do I bring the joyfulness in instead of the frustration, irritation, anxiety that is so permeating a lot of the people around?
Hmm. Ah, but joy and contentment are for tomorrow. They're things I will achieve tomorrow. Nope, I see a lot of shaking heads. No, because wherever I go, there I am. If I am not joyful and content today, I'm going to have a hard time finding it tomorrow.
Yep, absolutely.
Someday becomes what?
Never.
Never. Yeah. Hmm.
I know we didn't debate values.
And
And one of the criteria that I remember from when I use three different sets of values. So I
mm,
can debate values with myself for an hour because I
hmm,
have three different definitions myself. One of the models that I use, the rule for if it was a value was to get to a point where we got to whenever I choose. So
mm,
if we couldn't activate that value whenever we choose,
mm,
then it's not truly a value, it's an aspirational. I don't know, we've talked about in other calls the difference
mhm.
between the aspirational and the actual
Yes.
values. And I think that that to me is one of my key indicators. If I can't just activate that value whenever I choose,
Hmm.
then it's an aspirational value, not an actual value. And
Hmm.
so there's definitely like I definitely wake up. It's far easier to be aligned and tuned into myself first thing in the morning before anybody else comes into my space and interferes with me
Hmm.
and adds stuff to my life and brings different energies and those kinds of things. But in terms of like when can I access that? Whenever I choose.
Hmm.
Now, sometimes I forget to choose and I get caught up in the drama and the overwhelm and the anxiety.
Hmm.
And still, at any moment, I can choose. Like this morning, I wanted to be here on time and I wanted to be at the dawn service, and there was that inner conflict of
Hmm.
what's more important. And it was funny because I was standing at the Anzac service and I was listening to the service, but I was debating in my head. I'm like, do I leave? What am I going to do? Like how
Hmm.
late am I going to allow myself to be? And the thought popped up. It's like, does it have to be one or the other? Why can't I have both? And I had that thought, and then the guy finished the service, and I didn't have to choose. And
Mm.
so I think those moments where we tune in and it's like, what are we putting on ourselves that's those misconceptions? But the values are whenever I choose was what I wanted to add was the if we can't access it whenever we choose, is it truly a value? Is it something that we actually have that genuinely matters most as opposed to what we say matters most?
Hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And I appreciate you also bringing up that the aspirational values versus the existing values and past values. And it's okay if some values are aspirational. It's okay to say, all right, I recognize that this one thing is not as high of a value as I have been saying it is, and yet I do want it to be. And that's where I see myself headed. So, out of that structure, a little calendar buffering and limited slots for certain meetings. Here's the thing, here's a little habit to create. Actually, put stuff in the calendar. The stuff you're doing, actually put it in there.
Really? Do I have to?
Oh, you don't have to, Amy. This is just a that's my idea. And if it doesn't work for you, if it's not in line, then don't do it. That's the whole point.
That's the problem is that it probably is in line. I just don't like doing it.
Yeah, it's that's one I've been pretty good at recently is actually putting stuff in the calendar when I commit to do something. And I created a nice little habit of as soon as I commit to do something, I pick up my phone and I put it in the calendar. And we share our calendar with our lovely wife so that she can see it and we can see hers, and that way we are aware. Um, and then actually check the calendar. I am not as good at checking I've gotten pretty good at putting things in, and then I'll schedule something and my lovely wife will say, "But didn't you look at the calendar, honey?" Oh, oops. No, didn't look at the calendar.
One of the questions in the chat, I don't know if you've seen it, is what
Mm.
happens when other people have access to put things in your calendar?
Ooh, goodness.
Well, and we talked about that a little last week.
We did.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
we
Hmm.
did.
We did. And this would be depending on your whether you're
Situation.
running the business or an employee or your situation. There could be other folks who have access to your calendar. And then it
Or
may
have children or spouses.
children, spouses, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, family calendars. In that case, you may consider I'm not saying change your situation. I'm trying to articulate the fuzzy idea in my head.
Well, everything's negotiable, right?
Yes.
On some level, and sometimes even in corporate situations,
Mm.
if their meetings, I've seen it where people have negotiated with their higher ups that maybe I attend one, you know, maybe one meeting a month I don't go to because that's
Mhm.
during my highest productivity. And can I just use the notes if it's, a board meeting or some kind of meeting that other people are required to go to, for whatever purposes in a company setting. But
Hmm.
sometimes there's the ability to negotiate if you realize that that's one of your prime times for, really being motivated and task oriented and get them done. Sometimes you can negotiate the time if it's not the best use of your time.
Yes, thank you, honey. Negotiation is part of what we were thinking of, and negotiation almost in a boundary context versus
Mm.
like having all these things put in this way. Um, if it's if it's not dysregulating and if it's working, then that's fine. If it isn't working for you, if it's feeling out of alignment and dysregulating, then you can say to the other folks within that team, whether it's family or business or company or whatever it might be, that the way it's set up means that, hey, I am not functioning as well as I could be as a member of this team right now. I could be functioning better as a member of this team, and here are some ways we can all help me do that. And thank you, Amy. I was not reading all the chats.
Well, and I think it always comes back to awareness,
Hmm.
and acknowledging when am I at my best,
Hmm.
and then, enrolling other people either with, setting boundaries if they're not enrollable to, well, I'm maybe not aware on the whole day
Hmm.
and I work from home that day or whatever.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think there's a process and it always starts with awareness. Is it working for you? Does it feel right? Does it feel good?
And that awareness is very much a moment by moment check in with your own system.
Hmm.
Are you feeling expansive or constricted? Are you feeling abundant or lack? Are you feeling calm or anxious? And none
Are
of
you
those are
feeling numb or and busy?
numb and busy. I certainly did that for many decades. Numb and busy worked great. I got a lot done and made a lot of money. I was
Over,
also very happy and ultimately fell apart. So it is not
Yeah.
really a long-term solution for me.
overwhelmed
Yes, exactly, Tom.
versus
Overwhelmed.
calm.
Uh-huh. Yep. Or struggling versus flow. There's a lot of ways to put it. And none of those are positive or negative states or feelings. They are all simply information.
Yeah. So instead of judging them, just being aware.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, it's like performance anxiety, right? Like when you're getting ready to get on stage,
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain amount of anticipation and excitement that can make you on your game.
Mm-hmm.
But then too much gets you overwhelmed. So it's like finding that right zone. And so it's not to say all anticipatory, anxious feeling is negative. It can actually have a positive,
Mm-hmm.
make you
Yes.
more focused.
Mm-hmm. So for our little habit in our example, it's going to be actually putting stuff in the calendar, actually checking the calendar, only booking into the open slots. Then consistently has to do with what might get in the way and what can we do to reinforce it. So what might get in the way here is realizing that your obstacles are things like people pleasing and FOMO. But I want to do this thing. It sounds so exciting. Or, but I want to make this person happy. Because, of course, it's my job to make everybody happy. And then perhaps after we recognize those obstacles, and sometimes simply recognizing them is enough, then we can realize what we can do to reinforce it. So here it would be clear communication and boundary setting. And that's as much internally as externally. Often setting boundaries with ourselves is just as scary as setting boundaries with other people. So what we're doing by looking things at this angle, not trying to do more or work harder or hustle or get lots of extra ideas from other people on the different structures and tasks we could be accomplishing. We're trying to take the pressure and the motivation and the discipline out of the equation, or if not entirely, at least reducing our reliance on those tools, because every tool can be useful from time to time. And so then perhaps just reflect for yourself for a minute. Where in your business are you currently relying on willpower, or in your life, or in your family, or wherever it might be? Where are you shooting yourself? Where is it feeling unaligned? And where is it draining you? I'm sure we all have those things going on. We have something called a Clarissa list in a notebook. Some of you have heard of the Clarissa list. It's our list of shoulds for all day long. And we have been reframing how we look at our Clarissa list into things that could be done today. And the things that don't get done today will be moved over to tomorrow. And we're even in the midst now of switching over from the Clarissa list to a little fun card game so we can gamify the whole thing.
What is that list? I don't recall hearing you say that before.
It's just our to-do list for the day, a little notebook where we write everything down. We call it our Clarissa list because Clarissa is the name of our part who likes to keep track of our time and make sure we get everything done.
Okay.
And then it turns into a ta-da list
A ta-da
of the things
list.
you, yeah, ta-da.
Ta-da. Yes, thank you, Amy, for the idea there.
To-do lists are way better than to-do lists.
Yes, we agree. We've been enjoying making it into a ta-da list.
I also really love the switch to the options.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wrote down, I don't know what that part's called, it doesn't get much airtime anymore, but if I wrote down everything that I should do, I would
Mm-hmm.
have a year's worth of work. And I move fairly quickly. I've been reminded of how quickly I move in terms of getting stuff done in this last week when I keep telling people what I'm creating in my business. They're like, oh, wow, that's a lot. And I'm like, no, I don't feel like I've done much at all. So that gauge is broken. But that shift from I should get all of this done today
Mm-hmm.
to what can I get done today? And that's going to vary. We go back to the word we've been using of the capacity. How much capacity do I have?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to vary based on my own energy, but it's also going to vary on how many taxi driving trips I have to do for the teenagers.
Uh-huh.
And so, like my capacity today, I've got back-to-back meetings until probably 4 o'clock. And by the time we get to 4 o'clock, I'm not going to want to play anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be done. And yet this morning, my muse was very active for like the 10 minutes
Mm.
before I got out of bed. And there's like 50 different ideas. And I would love to get all of them written down, but they need to go on the options list and be pushed over to tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just not going to have the space to do it. But it's that difference between I should and I could makes a
Mm.
significant. It's like and there is a huge obstacle in the like what we see as what we could. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember who said it. Christy may remember because I know we've talked about it before, but the you can achieve more in 5 years than what you think you can. Like, so
Mhm.
what we set for ourselves in a year is we're not going to achieve, but what we set for ourselves in 10 years is not enough. Like our
Mm-hmm.
time perception is morphed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what we think we can achieve in a day, possibly we need to achieve over a week. And what we think we can achieve in the year, we can achieve in less time or something. I can't remember exactly
Yeah.
what it is. But yeah, the capacity is definitely uh, um, an element there.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the concept of the Clarissa list. And there's a part of me that like is on totally like write them all down, tick them all off. But it is that burnout that comes from it when we don't turn it into the options list and actually allow it to be grounded in
Yes.
what's actually possible as opposed to what we wish was possible.
Thank you, Amy.
Well, and,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of do the thing in the morning, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Even that list is too long for me to achieve in a day, though. Like
Mhm.
if I write down what do
Uh-huh.
I want to do, there's a lot that
Uh-huh.
I want to do.
Yeah. Well, we've been thinking also playing with the idea of, shoulds, coulds, and musts. And even the must, we are starting to think of like, well, if that doesn't get done, does somebody die? And if the answer is no, maybe it's not a must.
Most
Yeah.
most musts could be downgraded to should, and
Mm-hmm.
most shoulds should be downgraded to could.
Who
That would
could?
change the
Yes,
dynamic significantly.
indeed. That is functionally what we've been doing. Yeah. So moving forward in a way that feels authentic and aligned. Again, we're not looking to do more or impose structures. We're just giving you a gentle framework where you can build something from within. So we're just looking to do stuff differently, not do more of it. And so that might look like small aligned structures that you've built from within, some gentle consistency. It's not out of pressure, not waiting for that motivation, not having to make constant decisions, but simply having aligned action that after a while begins to happen automatically, and more self-trust, which is a big one because a lot of it, when we get in that cycle, that start, stop, overwhelm, struggle, switch cycle, we start to lose trust and second guess ourselves. And so as we do that, we start to feel a little bit more calm and clear and stable and sustainable. So as we feel calm, go ahead and take that breath. And we're always reminding folks, breathe through the belly. Use your diaphragm, open up the lungs, and take that breath. Go ahead and even if you want to yawn, for some reason in our society, yawning has become impolite when it's really simply our nervous system regulating itself.
Yeah,
As
I
it
don't know
becomes
who put the
clear,
idea out that yawning was associated with boredom and tired as opposed to regulation, but they need to be taught a lesson.
taught a less. I thought you were going to say shot, but yeah.
It did start much harsher in my head. I edited the sentence midway through.
Perhaps they could use a gentle reframe. So start to see that there might be a values aligned path forward, and it's going to look different for all of us, which is the wonderful and beautiful thing. And perhaps it will be stable in a way that feels grounded to you. And by grounded, we tend to mean regulated internally in alignment. And a way that means sustainable means, oh my goodness, I can actually do this. This is actually accomplishable. What we did today is kind of a first step in that. And having this framework is one thing. Of course, implementing it on a daily basis and a weekly basis, on a monthly basis is something else entirely. And so what you experience today is what we do all the time inside our community. We call the Empowered Business Habits, or the EBH community. Again, today this is one of our regular Friday EBH calls, which is why there will be a limited replay, and then it will go inside our members area for the folks who are inside EBH and who may be joining EBH. And again, this is what we do all the time, and we dive deep on this sort of stuff every Friday, giving you lots of ideas and ways that might work for you, might not work for you. That's the cool thing is we explore so much different stuff in EBH. You can take what's aligned and reject the rest. We are not trying to impose values or impose structure or give you more things to do, but simply give you perhaps different ways to reframe and look and do the things that you already want to do that already feel in alignment for you. So empowered business habits is very much not just like strategy. We're not imposing strategies. We're talking about integrating and reflecting on who we are and where we are and who we want to be and where we want to go. We do a lot of practical implementation with things like worksheets and these videos and everything, not simply information for you to try and absorb. Some of us enjoy absorbing information. Many of us here are probably information sponges, and that's okay. And I love to absorb information without implementing. At some point, though, I have to start thinking of how is that serving my values? EBH is recognizing that you are a real human being business owner. It is not treating your business as some other thing or a project. It's not some vehicle that has to be tuned up and fueled. It's not a house that has to be fixed up. that if you're running a business, you are the real human business owner who sits inside it. And so it's very much recognizing that human aspect of everything. And so we design it for real folks, especially a lot of coaches, healers, service providers, transformational entrepreneurs, licensed professionals, a lot of us who are serving people in what we do. And those who are ready for that sustainable growth and who are willing to try it out, and folks who are kind of done with that hustle and inconsistency in that start stop overwhelm cycle. In EBH, we have our Signal chat room for ongoing support where we are sharing wins and challenges. We are sharing resources. We are doing daily intention setting, and we can give you different ideas for how to do that different daily intention setting. We have our Friday deep dives on Zoom, just like today, where we start off by sharing our wins and challenges from the week and holding each other through those challenges, celebrating our wins together, and then diving deep on different subjects that can give us that gentle structure to move us forward. Monthly themes that keep us moving forward all year long, and practical tools. There are worksheets, there are meditations. In fact, this morning I made sure that a number of our meditations were uploaded into the members area for those who use it. Yes, honey, I did it. And I will be creating more and uploading more. In fact, my muse is right here. Hi, Erin. Some of you have met Erin. She is speaking to me about additional meditations that she wants to record and set to nice. And our meditations typically are set to brain entrainment binaural beats as well. So they work very well with headphones and stuff like that. Access to recordings of all of the Friday calls like today. So it's okay if you are coming in partway through the year because you will get all the calls leading up to it. And there is no time that's necessarily best or worst to join or anything like that because we have a good story that we keep telling all year long whenever you happen to jump in. And you get access to the recordings of all of the calls and all of the worksheets and meditations and bonuses that showed up with them. And most importantly, in community, we're doing this together. This is not about me blabbering at you. Now, look, I'm an old government prosecutor. I used to go after white collar crime. If you want me to blabber at you for 8 hours, I can, and I will enjoy it, and I will have a great time. But ultimately, it's not really that productive for you or me. So we do this together.
And support and love each other.
Support and love. Yes. So we have a year-long story arc that we are currently going through in Empowered Business Habits. So the first quarter, which we just kind of wrapped up, we started with values as a foundation, moved into authenticity and then boundaries. And you kind of saw that today as we were kind of pulling all of that together. And again, you will get the recordings and worksheets and everything that went with all of those calls. Our second quarter this year turns all that into gentle structure. And so today you got a good taste of how we've been talking about gentle structure built from our values and our authenticity. Next month in May, we're going to turn that structure into action and see how we can look at action and actually doing something with all this stuff that we're building. And then into visibility. Oh, that scary, scary visibility. Oh no, people are going to see me. Oh dear. Then they're going to have questions and they're going to want to know things and they're going to want me to do stuff. That's okay. We're going to talk about that. In the third quarter this year, then we're going to talk about receiving. Oh dear. I do love to give, but I don't like to ask. So we're going to learn to receive and ask and then refine what we're doing and then move into decision making where we can trust ourselves better. And then we will move into leadership, very much internal leadership, not simply external leadership. And then how we can be sustainable and integrate everything we've learned. The investment for Powered Business Habits, it's a subscription service, so you can do it monthly. It's $147 per month if you would like to get started and just dip your toes in and see if you like it. Because it's a subscription service, you can cancel if it's not working for you, if it's not in alignment for you. So it's $147 per month. Or if you are committed for the year, you can sign up for $14.77 for the year if you're just ready to go. And of course, you can always start monthly and then go into the yearly as well. As long as your subscription is active, you will have access to all the stuff we just talked about. The recordings of the calls, all of these different Friday calls, all the subject matter that you can go back through all of them at your leisure. So we have all the calls from the first quarter this year uploaded. We have lots of calls from last year uploaded. This call, as I said, will be up for a brief limited replay on YouTube, and then we'll go into our members area for EBH. And you have access to all the worksheets, the meditations, all of the other stuff that is in there. And as long as you're a member, you get to keep renewing at your current rate. The price will be rising because we are building out some additional infrastructure that we believe is going to add a lot of value and support for our community. Yes, fingers crossed, honey. There are things happening in the background, platform building and infrastructure building that we think are going to add a lot more robustness and a lot more value to EBH and hopefully make it very useful for everybody. And so as that infrastructure gets added, the investment will raise because our cost to implement it will raise as well. But everyone who joins now will be locked in and grandfathered into the price you join now as long as you want to keep renewing. So if you're seeing perhaps how this can serve you, and if you're ready to build this into your life and business, you can join us at empoweredbusinesshabits.com. It's empoweredbusinesshabits.com. And instead of having to rebuild from scratch every time in that old cycle that isn't working, let's build something together that actually holds space for you to move forward. And then coming up next week, so for those, some of you are already members, and for those who may feel aligned to join in the next few days, next Friday is, I believe it's May 1st, next Friday. Yes. So we're going to begin our May theme of aligned action, and we're going to start that out by talking about how action could be driven by a number of different things. Could be driven by fear, or that feeling of scarcity and urgency. It could be driven by ego, that need to prove and perform, to justify, to explain, or it could be driven also by alignment, that clarity, that calmness, that intention as we move forward. So I'm happy to hang on for a few minutes and answer any questions or interact or see how we're all doing here. Can also grab in the chat. Here's
I
also
found that really useful and informative, Ian. Thanks for that. That was
absolutely
really good. Yeah.
Glad you were here, Christine. Glad somebody else from the future could join us today. Hopefully, there is still a world in the future. The robots haven't taken over yet.
Australia's too far. We're on our island
Oh,
ourselves. So
yeah,
yeah.
that's true. Yeah. Sherry, hello. So glad you're here.
Hi, Ian. Got me thinking and reflecting on values and on which of mine are actual and which might be aspirational. And thinking maybe I had better do some kind of an exercise to learn which are which. Do you know of such an exercise?
Oh, yes. And in fact, all that material is inside our EBH community.
I should have seen that one coming.
We have several videos on that, complete with worksheets and everything. Yes.
Okay.
Well, and I think the biggest part is just being able to sit in community, get to know each other better. That's what we really do on the Fridays, and just really supporting each other in what we want to accomplish and still share in the world, whether that's artwork or writing or just getting clear on who we are as a person and getting support to transmute the feelings of feeling stuck, negativity, overwhelm that shows up in the world. Just how do we be together?
Yeah.
And love each other.
How do we be and exist without having to prove and justify and explain?
Yeah.
For me, the Friday calls have been great for bringing focus and direction to what I'm doing, but also some fun. Like we've had some really fun calls. It's that really nice combination of focus and fun, and most of the content is not stuff I need. Like I'm a content collector, but it's that connection that makes the difference, and the regular connection with people that have some aligned values. Not all of them are aligned, and that's okay, but there are definitely, I think the word you used before was the overlapping values. And it gives me a space to come. I mean, it's Saturday morning for me rather than Friday lunchtime, but it's a consistency that I show up, I get something to reflect on, and then I can I'm looking forward to like moving that towards the action. We've been doing a lot of reflecting, and that's been really powerful and really helpful. But moving that into action is definitely the next step. And so I'm really grateful for the calls. I think I joined in January and I've been loving them ever since. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And we will be moving into action in May. That's our theme. Very good. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we did okay on time, so I want to be respectful of that. We're in a little over an hour. We appreciate all of you, love you all, and we hope to see you all soon.
Thank you.